Hello friends, welcome to FDR India. A lot of you have been watching our content and engaging with it. Many of you have shared your opinions and concerns with the Women's Reservation Bill and the alternate model that Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan has been talking about since a couple of decades now. So let's talk to Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan today and understand and seek answers on this question. A disclaimer, the concern must have been raised by an individual, but it is highly likely that the concern is shared by a large number of people. So let's get to the video. Hi, sir.
Hello, Ankit.
Sir, let's get straight to the question. One of the comments on one of our videos is that there's a person called Kiran Vuturi. He says, problem with this model, the model that you've been talking about, is that women candidates will end up in constituencies where the party has no hopes or completely confident of winning. Do you think that is a possibility in the model?
No, it's a good question. You see, in a male-dominated society and individual-centric politics, it's not even gender, the individuals always want to preserve their turf.
Right.
And therefore, there is a risk that parties will nominate notionally women in seats where there's no hope of winning at all, and nominate in strong seats where they have a realistic chance of winning, male candidates. That's why we have proposed in the model two things. We did not say all the 540 plus Lok Sabha seats are one unit.
Okay.
Then what will happen? Congress and BJP have no hope of winning a single seat in Andhra Pradesh right now.
Oh, yes.
Let me be truthful. BJP has no chance in Kerala. Like that, no, state after state, you can see a certain pattern. So the chances are that they will nominate women in states where there is no hope.
Right.
But the moment you make the state as a unit for Lok Sabha and a group of assembly constituencies as a unit for the state assembly, no significant party is going to give up every small sub-region of a state and every state of India. Then they will give up power.
Right.
It's absurd. So that safeguard we provide, we can think of even better safeguards. So what we said is, take Telangana. There are 17 Lok Sabha seats in Telangana.
Yes.
There shall be 6 seats for women. But which 6 is dependent on the party.
Okay.
They will decide. Similarly, you take Andhra Pradesh. There are 25 seats. That means minimum 8 seats. Maybe once in 3 years, there will be 9 seats.
Right.
Because there is 8 to 1/3 will be for women. Now, the two major parties in the state are, let's say, TDP and Vaikapa.
Yes.
Now, why will Vaikapa and TDP think of losing any seat? Earlier, TDP won most of the seats, now Vaikapa won most of the seats. So, while that concern is justified in real politics, once you have taken care to see that the state is the unit for Lok Sabha, and a group of 3 parliamentary constituencies, why 3? 1/3, the moment you make 3, in some states, one Lok Sabha seat has 6 assembly segments. Like for instance, Maharashtra, 48 Lok Sabha seats, 288 assembly. Some states 5 segments, like UP, 80 or so Lok Sabha segments and 400 or so assembly segments. Some states 7, like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. Earlier 42 Lok Sabha seats for the combined state and 294 assembly seats.
Right.
So you don't know the number. Once you say make 3 Lok Sabha constituencies, the number of assembly segments are always multiples of 3, inevitably.
Right.
So that's the reason why we thought of 3 Lok Sabha constituencies.
Right.
And therefore, that danger is minimal in such a case. No party is going to commit suicide.
Right. Sir, also a couple of concerns has been raised about representation of different social groups. So how does that model address the representation of social groups?
2 things, Ankit. First of all, the problem that exists today cannot be used against any change.
Right.
Today, what is the guarantee that all social groups will be represented? Is there a guarantee? In fact, why do we require women's representation? Because we see that women are underrepresented.
Right.
But what is happening in India in real terms? Whereas at one time, the political office was the preserve of the dominant sections, the upper castes, etc. Increasingly, intermediate castes. There are many backward class parties, intermediate caste parties. Dalits, because the reservation anyway is there for Dalits and Adivasis, etc. But even otherwise, Dalit parties like, for instance, Samajwadi, Bahujan Samaj Party, they came up. The social coalitions for the parties competing for power are different. Now, they nominate candidates in order to get the votes, not because of the goodness of their hearts.
Right.
So one thing we must recognize is that political parties in general, while they are doing many things terribly, vote buying, ugly political discourse, polarization, short-term freebies, all these things is true. But nevertheless, they are trying to bring together many communities
Right.
and give them space because they want to win their votes. But it's not happening sufficiently. Some communities which have either greater desire for power or who have more resources or traditionally had some leadership, they tend to get an advantage. But generally, power now is more and more dispersed. That's the way democracy evolves. That will continue tomorrow also. And in the model that we have proposed, because you're not deciding that constituency X is for women, that is arbitrary. Now, in that case, supposing I want a BC woman in that constituency, but my party has no strength for strong BC women leaders there. Or I may not actually get enough BC support in that constituency. Elsewhere, I may have BC support. So I'm not able to put up enough women candidates.
Right.
But supposing I decided the political party where the women should be appointed, and then because I want X number of BCs, because that is my political and social base, then I can nurture them and give them the seats. So once the parties have the flexibility to decide, there's organic leadership growing. And depending on the party's own political philosophy and the social coalition, each party has its own social coalition. They can nominate women from those communities. Whereas in an arbitrary rotation system drawn by lots, you don't have that facility. That's precisely the logic of this kind of a party quotas rather than reservation of a constituency with rotation.
So you've used data and suggested that the Indian voters do not differentiate between male candidates and female candidates.
Absolutely.
They increasingly prefer.
The data is very clear.
On the other hand, 30 years since this bill is in the motion. So do you think that it is not the fault of the electorate, but the fault of the political parties that they don't want to see the women?
No question about it. See, I'm not even saying political parties as an entity with a conscious decision. This is a male-dominated society.
Right.
Our politics also is male-dominated. And our definition of politics itself is one of domination and control rather than service. Let's be truthful. That's why when you look at portfolios, what do you look for? Defense.
Right.
Home, control of police. Finance. Taxation ministries. Or land, revenue in the states. Not education. Not healthcare. Not infrastructure improvement. Not basic communities like stormwater drainage or sewerage. These are boring, unsexy, dull portfolios, weak portfolios. Why? Our notion of power in India is one of control and dominance. That is a male notion, macho. If women are given greater role, the chances are that they will look at it differently. So because men want control, and the very purpose of being politically active is not an ideology in the most part. I'm not trying to say everybody is the same, but the general gender tendency, but control, they obviously did not want to cede space for women. But nevertheless, because of the political pressure, because of modernization, because more and more women are getting educated, that is happening to some extent.
Right.
Certainly, women's proportion has gone up a little.
Yes.
What used to be 6, 7, 8% has now become 14% or 15%, which is better, but not good enough. Therefore, you have to accelerate it, but in an organic way, not in a crude way, not in reservation, in my judgment, not reservation and rotation, but organic way to allow the leadership to rise. And once leadership is established, leadership can be sustained. It doesn't make a make din ka sultan. If leadership cannot any longer contest, a woman leader became very effective but cannot contest later, leadership dies. I have seen in a few cases where local governments actually throw up good quality leadership, not many places, mostly proxy leadership. The husband runs the show, the wife is merely ornamentally there in many cases, but in some cases the women did really do remarkably well. But once rotation took place, they completely disappeared from the public scene.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your perspectives with us. Do keep watching our content and please share your comments and questions about this issue. Thank you.